This year we checked a big destination off of our cruise list and took a cruise through the Norwegian Fjords. So today we're going to tell you the good, bad, and ugly of Norwegian Fjords Cruises. Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Jordan.
And I'm Jared.
And we are JJ Cruise. We are very, very excited to be talking all about the Norwegian Fjords today. We just got back from a Norwegian Fjords cruise, and we have brought quite a bit of information for your upcoming cruise to Norway.
But before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel. All we do is talk about cruising, and we're so close to our goal here of 40,000 subscribers. You can be the difference, and while you're at it, hit the thumbs up.
By the end of this video, you are going to have a complete guide of everything you need to know, including cruise tips for cruising through the Norwegian Fjords, vital information about Norwegian Fjords excursions, and our review. What did we think about cruising through the Norwegian Fjords, and would we ever take this cruise again?
Let's start this cruise review by talking about the good, and of course, we'll talk about the bad and the ugly a little later in this video, so stay till the end. We took our Norwegian Fjords cruise on the Celebrity Apex in May. It was one of the first cruises for Celebrity Cruises. And we went from Rotterdam, Netherlands, returned to Amsterdam, Netherlands. They're very close to each other, but still different ports. And we went to a couple unique destinations, everything from Bergen to Geiranger, as well as Flåm and Haugesund. These unique cruise ports made up a majority of our days, but we did have a few sea days as well.
One of the first questions that you might be asking yourself is, who is the Norwegian Fjords Cruise even for? Well, I want to just start by saying there was a wide age range of people on our cruise. A lot of people might think that Norwegian Fjords cruisers are just for maybe more mature cruisers, but there was everything from little kids all the way up to adults and grandparents aboard the Celebrity Apex. There was also a good, diverse mix of people from a lot of different countries. We obviously came from the other side of the world, over from the States, but unlike a cruise sailing out of Florida, we met a lot of people from Europe and all different parts of the world.
Specifically though, the people that should be going on Norwegian Fjords Cruise are those that love nature and anything to do with adventure. The Norwegian Fjords are beautiful, epic landscapes and honestly some of the best we've ever experienced. However, it is about nature. It is not your Caribbean sailing where you're sitting on a beach. It is not like some of those other vacations where you just relax and that's all you do. There's a lot more to do in the Norwegian Fjords than just sitting in one place.
In regards to nature, we saw some of the most epic views we have ever seen in our life. This is actually our fourth set of fjords that we've seen. We've been to Alaska, Greenland and Iceland, New Zealand, and now, of course, Norway. And we can report that this was one of the most epic sailings that we have ever seen. The thing that makes Norway so unique from some of these other fjords and destinations is within these little tiny passageways, there are these small towns. As you sail in, you get the Alaska Inside Passage experience continuously every single day throughout your cruise. It truly was amazing, and if you're someone that loves mountains or fjords or nature, this is the type of cruise that's going to be for you.
I've never seen more waterfalls in my entire life, and every single day felt like you were just looking at a painting in real life. One of those paintings that you see all over and you dream of going to visit. The spectacle that is the Norwegian Fjords is one not to miss and one that we are so happy we were able to witness firsthand. Once you get off of your cruise at some of these cruise ports, you quickly find out that the people are very welcoming. We know that there has been some talk about there's certain groups of people out there that are anti-cruise. That of course exists, but they are such a small minority compared to everyone else at these cruise ports. People are very welcoming and very much want you to be there.
You have to remember that the small towns and ports that these cruise ships visit primarily get their business from cruisers. So the people are very thankful and welcoming and happy to see you once you step off of the ship. We didn't know before we went if we'd be met with protesters or if we would be met with open arms, and we're happy to report it was definitely the latter.
Another thing for those from the States or from English-speaking countries is how is the language barrier while you're on a Norwegian Fjords cruise, and we're happy to report It was never an issue. In fact, we're very impressed with everyone around the world that knows so many different languages, because that is true here as well. English is like a second language, but a perfect second language for most people, and it never became an issue and something very welcomed. We know there's countries out there that may not like to speak English. Here, it was no problem, and it was widely accepted and appreciated.
We can't talk about the good without talking about the shore excursions. Now, something that is very different on this cruise than other cruises for us is that we booked all of our shore excursions on land once we reached our destination. Of course, you know that you can book them on the ship in advance, but in this case, all of the shore excursion tour desks are right there at the pier. And in some cases, we did find these tours to be less costly than you would pay for it on the ship.
In some cases, in every case, the prices were better, and it was always easily accessible right when you got off of your cruise. Now, if you don't want to do a shore excursion, if you're someone that likes to take on nature on your own, there's such an easy way to hike or find a trail and get your own kind of make it your own adventure experience at most of these cruise ports. You just walk off the ship, and a lot of times there's hiking trails right there at port. You can just go on up a hill, go on up a mountain, go along a road to get to a nice area to take pictures or have a view or sit down and enjoy nature. It's really easy and accessible to do at each one of these cruise ports. You don't have to take a car 2 hours into a place to do so.
Something that surprised us that was actually very cool is 4 out of 5 cars in the country of Norway are electric. This means there is almost no noise or sound when there's traffic coming by. You almost have to be really careful to look both sides before crossing the street, because you actually can't hear any of the cars. This only added to the incredibly beautiful surroundings as you stepped off of the ship and into nature, because it was almost like stepping into complete silence.
It was the most peaceful experience we have ever experienced on a cruise ship or at a cruise port, and that includes Alaska, Greenland, like some of these other areas that are so remote or also similar to the type in the Norwegian fjords. And we can really blame that mostly on the good efforts of being environmentally friendly and having that electric car situation everywhere we went.
While there wasn't a lot to do outside of nature at the ports, at least every port did have 1 or 2 restaurants. We found at these restaurants there was quite unique food. That was something else that we really enjoyed and we had to put on our good list. If you've ever wanted to try something like reindeer or possibly whale, Norway is a place that you can do that. You have to keep in mind it's a different culture, they have different foods there, and this would be an opportunity to partake in some of those very unique eats.
Lastly of our good, we know there's a lot of people out there that don't take a lot of cruises that are long journeys because of seasickness or motion sickness. We're happy to report, at least for our experience, the seas were really calm. A lot of this being the fact that you're inside a lot of the passageways or right outside of some of these inside passages for a majority of your cruise. You're going from one destination up to Norway and then staying very close and inside there. So the seas are very calm and it's not something to worry about. If that is something that you are hesitant about, I would say don't be hesitant. Go and take a Norwegian Fjords cruise.
Now let's talk about the bad. And really, these things aren't bad, but they are things that are very important things you must know if you're about to take a Norwegian Fjords cruise. The first thing on the list is the Wi-Fi. Now, for us, we actually didn't find the Wi-Fi to be terrible, but whenever you're cruising through inside passageways or really tall mountains or fjords, you have to know that sometimes the signal may cut out. It happened for us only a couple of times, but it was every single day in our daily planner, that little note that said, your Wi-Fi may be interrupted tomorrow, and the captain did even talk about it on the loudspeaker one of the days.
Another thing you need to know, and would be a bad experience if you made this mistake, is booking on board the ship for your excursions or booking them in advance. We found that a lot of people were really disgruntled by the fact that they paid more but also got less priority and had large groups, large lines, just everything was a little bit more messy than if you were to do it all on your own. This is why we highly recommend, number 1 cruise tip, don't book your shore excursions until you're on the shore, and you can do it so easily, cheaper, and better experience while doing it on the shore.
To give a quick example of this, we took the train in Flåm. It's a train that goes up the mountain or up one of the fjords and lets you experience beautiful views. We took the exact same train that the ship took. There was about 80 people that booked through the ship. They got 4 train cars towards the back. Anyone that booked independently with the actual train station once we got on land got the 4 cars in the front. Now, there was only maybe 18 or 20 of us that shared those 4 cars, so we had lots of seats and places to move around, could take amazing pictures, whereas the 80 people in the back 4 trains were squeezed in very tight and had very little room to maneuver. Just an example, we paid less than they did, got more priority, better seats, and much better viewing opportunities on that train.
Another thing to note, and this was a mistake made by many, is a lot of people think that Norway is a part of the EU for the Euro process. Actually, it's not. They take the kroner, and so a lot of people took out euros before going up to Norway and could not use it anywhere. We recommend you just using a good credit card with no foreign transaction fees, but here's a #1 cruise tip for this. You have to not use Amex. Very rarely is Amex accepted anywhere in Norway as well as some other places in Europe. So make sure you have a couple credit cards with you, but almost everyone accepted credit card, just not those Amex cards.
Something else that's very important to know if you're going to take a Norwegian Fjords cruise is that some of the stops along the way are going to truly just be cruise port towns or towns that really function around the cruise industry. 2 of these, Flåm and Geiranger, were just really port stops. There was lots of hiking, obviously excursions that were offered right at the pier, but outside of that, they weren't towns that you would just get out and explore or like go have a drink and meet the locals. It truly was about nature and exploring the actual area and the land.
I think the perfect way to describe this, to make everyone understand what we mean by this, is Alaska versus Norway. That's the common question, which is better, and also how do they relate? In Alaska, you have a lot of ports that are also cities where locals live. You go into Juneau and you can go into a saloon and actually have a beer with a local. Here in Norway, multiple ports, like Jordan said, Flåm and Geiranger, literally had not many locals there, just workers coming in to help tourists from the cruises and then go home, and it wasn't necessarily that same local feeling. Of course, there are locals that are nearby, but it is a different feeling than that of what you get in some of those other Alaska port towns. Another thing to note, and this is also in line with Alaska versus Norway, Alaska is so much about seeing the wildlife, seeing all the different animals that are within nature. In Norway, it's way more about seeing the nature, not so much about wildlife. There may be some pieces of wildlife out there, however, it's not focused on that. You don't have these safari tours where you're looking for specific animals in the wild. It's really about seeing the beauty of the fjords as well as the beauty of nature all around you, and it's peaceful and wonderful, but just want to make sure it's well known it is not the same as an Alaska cruise.
Something that you do need to know if you're going on one of these cruises is that the Norwegian Fjords cruising season is about May to September or early October. Now, during this time, you are headed very far north, much more north than you're used to going. That means the sun is up for most of the day. When you are going to bed, maybe 10 or 11 o'clock, the sun may still be shining bright. So it's very important that if you are an early to bed type of person, you bring the appropriate things to maybe clip your blinds shut, because there will be that sun still shining through the curtains even up until the late evening.
Maybe you just need one of those face masks, the eye goggles. Whatever is good for you, just make sure you're aware, because any light sleepers out there may get troubled by the light coming in, maybe even as early as 3 a.m. Last on our bad list, or things you need to know, is the weather. Now, we're going to get to the ugly, which is something else, but the weather is so unpredictable. It's very similar to others in the same climate, like Alaska, and you don't know what you're going to get. One thing to know is be prepared. Make sure you do those cruise packing tips of bringing rain jackets, rain pants, good shoes that are water resistant, because sideways rain is the norm in Norway. You can never expect it to be sunny, even though we got lucky and got some beautiful sunny days without a cloud in the sky. You can never expect that. You have to expect there to be rain and to be wet, and it's still going to be beautiful, but it is not going to always be perfect weather.
I want to preface this. If you are considering to do a Norwegian Fjords Cruise, you really need to listen up, because this ugly is one of the most important things that we have to say, and one of the most important points in the cruise industry right now.
The ugly is that there's a lot of Norwegian Fjords cruise ports that are closing so soon. 2 major cruise ships, because they need to be innovated and made to have 0 emissions. There's a recent law that passed in Norway to protect the UNESCO heritage sites, and some of those sites are Fjord as well as Flom Fjords, 2 of which we mention constantly, some of the most beautiful fjords you will not be able to cruise to on a major cruise line anytime past 2025. Now, we know that a lot of you are probably watching this because you're getting ready to go in 2024, maybe even in 2025. But in 2026 and on, there will be less and less ports you can access. That does not mean there won't be any ports that you can access, but it's for a reason, and it's to be environmentally friendly, which we are so supportive of. So please make sure, if you're wanting to book your Norwegian Fjords cruise, to do so ASAP. And there are some great rates available if you want someone to help that knows what they're talking about, because they just might have gone. You can go to jjcruise.com, fill out our booking request form, and let us know when you're wanting to go, and we'll try to find the best rates with the best itinerary that's right for you.
I want to reiterate that we are very pro being environmentally friendly. We talked about the electric car situation in Norway and how amazing that was. The cars were never a distraction. So we do understand trying to protect these UNESCO heritage sites. However, it is something that is a huge disappointment to cruisers, and if you are wanting to go to Norway, book the trip now. Do not wait.
That was our good, bad, and ugly of the Norwegian Fjords Cruises. I mean, at the end, would we book it again?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
We
I mean,
would.
we have to. It is one of those things everyone asks. Alaska versus Norway. You got to do both. Book them both, experience it for themselves, because they're different, but they're both incredible and amazing, and definitely a trip of a lifetime.
Thank you so much for watching. Again, contact us if you want to book your next Norwegian Fjords cruise. And until next time, see ya!